There is a very short saying in Spain: Spain is pain, and it's so freaking true when it comes to the administrative divisions of this country. I have been living here for 2 years now, so I've gotten somewhat used to the way things function, but I'm sure many of you have no clue. And let me say this: if you think Spain is one big happy country and everyone is proud to be Spanish, wrong. You've never been further away from the truth, and today we'll find out why things are the way they are. So enjoy. Spain has 17 autonomous communities and 2 autonomous cities, Ceuta and Melilla. The autonomous communities are essentially the first subnational level of political and administrative division and have the right to self-govern within limits as declared in the Spanish constitution. While the entire Spanish territory was united under one crown in 1479, this was not a process of national homogenization or amalgamation. The constituent territories, be their crowns, kingdoms, principalities, or dominions, retained much of their former institutional existence. Fast forward to 21st century, each autonomous community has its own flag, some of them have their own language, and to pour more oil into the fire, the division is asymmetrical, meaning that certain autonomous communities have more political power than others, and they have more, how can I say this, benefits? Typically those communities with stronger nationalist movements such as the Basque Country or Catalonia are given more political power and more rights than, say, Asturias or Andalusia. Many perceive this as unfair, and while there is some truth to that, of course, the establishment says that this system is more responsive to local diversity in Spain. To make it even more complex, each autonomous community is autonomous for different reasons. Take Cantabria, for example. Cantabria is an autonomous region because it has the status of historical community. Others, such as the Basque Country and Catalonia, have the status of nationalities. Others, such as Murcia or Madrid, are neither historical communities nor nationalities, but felt like they should also self-govern and decided to come up with a status code region. Enough of politics now, let's start with the first region. And I'm gonna go alphabetically for obvious reasons. So let's go Andalusia. Capital Seville, population 8.5 million. The most heavily absorbed and influenced part of the Moorish conquest. Flamenco, Pablo Picasso, gazpacho, the only marshlands and the only desert in Europe, the highest mountain peak on the Iberian Peninsula, some of Europe's hottest temperatures, funny accent, avocado plantations, oh, and you can see Africa on a clear day. The civilian historian Antonio Dominguez Ortiz wrote that they are not one, they are not two, but there are 3 Andalusias. The Sierra Morena, the valley of the Guadalquivir, and the Cordillera Penibética. The variety in landscape of course makes sense given how big Andalusia is. In fact, the region is bigger than, let's say, Austria or Ireland, and almost as big as Portugal. And not just in territory, but in population as well. Andalusia is home to the hottest and driest climates in Spain, but also to the wettest ones in inland Cádiz. You can clearly see the difference between the dry and wet lands in Andalusia on Google Maps. The largest cities in Andalusia are Seville, flamenco and bullfighting, Malaga, sardines grilled over open fires, Cordoba's great mosque and courtyards full of flowers, Granada, Alhambra of course, Jerez de la Frontera, known for its wines and horses, and Almeria, greenhouse farming. Sorry Almeria, but that's what you've got. Unfortunately, 38% of the people in Andalusia are living at risk of poverty, which is significantly higher than the EU average. This is why Andalusia has the fame of being one of the poorest regions in Spain. Typical Andalusian dishes include pescadito frito, gazpacho, Cordoban salmorejo, pinga, oxtail, jamón ibérico, alboronia, polea. The agricultural sector is the main industrial sector in Andalusia, and the region is the world's leading producer of olive oil. Fun facts about the region: 1/3 of the olives in the world come from Andalusia. Something you might not expect, you can go skiing in Andalusia, and the region is kind of famous for that too. Another interesting thing is that more than 100 companies in Andalusia work in the aerospace sector, something I would have never guessed. But I guess having 365 days of sunshine really helps when you schedule those aerospace tests. It's just a guess. Aragon, capital Zaragoza, population 1.3 million. In my humble opinion, this region is one of the most underrated in all of Spain. Nobody really talks about them, maybe because they don't have a coastline, or they are too far away from Barcelona and Madrid, or maybe because they don't have a good football team, but they've been blessed with so many natural wonders, and full of historical sites.
The region's terrain ranges diversely, from permanent glaciers to verdant valleys, rich pasture lands, and rocky mountain ranges with ancient strongholds. Half of the population of Aragon lives in the region's capital city, Zaragoza.
Interesting fact about Zaragoza, in Spain only Madrid, Barcelona and Valencia are bigger, so that technically makes it the fourth largest city in Spain. Although some might argue that Seville is bigger, but they're practically the same. So.
Other notable cities include Teruel and Huesca.
And while everyone is talking about La Sagrada Familia in Barcelona, why don't you plan your next trip to Zaragoza and see the wonderful Basilica del Pilar? It is one of the most spectacular pieces of the Baroque architecture of Spain.
Time for Aragon in a nutshell. Francisco Goya, roasted lamb, Fiestas del Pilar, Jota, Aneto, the Ebro Valley, Mayos de Riglos, microclimate, and another microclimate. Also, the Crown of Aragon at some point ruled over the entire region of Catalonia, Valencia, Sicily, Naples, Sardinia, and many others. Moving on to Asturias, capital Oviedo. Population 1 million.
Well, I live here, so that's enough for an opening line. You know these very famous images of the coastline of England or Ireland with vast green fields? Well, now imagine you have this, but then you have the Swiss Alps running alongside the coast. That's kind of what Asturias is like, but with better weather too. The capital city of Asturias is Oviedo. You might know it from the movie Vicky Cristina Barcelona.
The biggest city though is Gijón, and 90% of the population of Asturias is concentrated in this little triangle.
We also have an international airport, eucalyptus trees that are taking over every square meter of land, and the climate setting of Asturias is kind of unique because you can go skiing and surfing in the same day and then do it again. Everything in Asturias is practically within 1 hour drive, so if you have a car here, you can never have a boring weekend. The Principality of Asturias also has these prestigious awards every year where various celebrities get nominated for their achievements. I'm talking about people like Michael Phelps, Norman Foster, Frank Gehry, Meryl Streep. This year I attended and met with the royal family and all that, so now I do appreciate them more. And it's kind of cool. Anyway, let's see how to summarize Asturias.
Bagpipes, apple cider, fabada, more fabada, cheap and delicious seafood everywhere, pristine beaches next to tall cliffs that half of the year are underwater, seawater coming from the earth, surfers, more eucalyptus, rain, more rain, sun, then more rain, then 4 fantastic summer months. The Balearic Islands, capital Palma, population 1.2 million.
The Balearic Islands are an archipelago.
The most notable islands include Ibiza, Formentera, Mallorca, and Menorca. They also have a bunch of smaller islands, some of them private, some of them uninhabited, some of them turn into national parks such as Cabrera. There are in total 151 smaller islands in the archipelago.
The most common theory about the origins of the word Balearic comes from the Greek word gymnos, which means naked, because the indigenous tribes here were, not shy. Mallorca is the most populated island of the archipelago. It's something like 80% or 900,000 of the people living here. And if anyone wants to argue with you, there are in fact more Germans than Brits living here.
The small isle of Formentera is famously the setting of the novel by Jules Verne called Hector Servadac. He also wrote The Lighthouse at the End of the World. A lighthouse can be found in La Mola, at the very end of the island, where, on a clear day, the shores of Africa can be seen in the distance. Tennis stars Carlos Moya and Rafael Nadal come from the Balearic Islands. In terms of cuisine, you have sobrasada, a local pork sausage. Lobster stew, or caldereta from Menorca, is one of the most sought after dishes. Local pastries include ensaimada, flau, and coca. Next is the Basque Country, capital Vitoria, population 2.2 million.
You know how every family has this stubborn child that fights with everyone and does whatever they want? Oh, this is similar, but on top of that, the child believes that they have been adopted and wrongfully adopted, so they don't want to take part in any of the responsibilities of the family. But when it comes to dinner, they are the first one to sit at the dinner table, so that's kind of my best explanation of the whole thing. Of course, in real life, things are much more complex than that. If you're feeling confused and you don't know what the heck I'm talking about, basically the Basque Country wants to be an independent country and they believe they'll fare much better alone than as part of Spain. Yeah, and you can kind of see why. Firstly, they're the richest and most developed part of Spain. Of course, this is because they kind of earned a special tax system that allows them to have bigger control over their money than the other regions of Spain. At some point they really wanted to become an independent country, and it got a bit ugly. A lot of important people got shot, some of them got kidnapped. It was intense, and those people in Spain who are above 40 years old still carry that memory and picture in the back of their mind.
The most important cities in the Spanish Basque Country are of course Bilbao, Vitoria and San Sebastian.
The Basque Autonomous Community has the highest GDP per capita than any other autonomous community in Spain, including Madrid. They have 32% higher GDP per capita than the average for the EU, and about 38% higher than the average for Spain. They have really strong industrial and manufacturing sectors, also energy, finance, architecture, logistics, you name it.
The BBVA, Spain's second largest bank, and Iberdrola, multinational electric utility company with more than 30 million customers, are headquartered in Bilbao. They have some weird traditions such as Jeriki Rolac, Basque Pelota, gastronomic society, where only men were allowed up until not so long ago.
I've heard so many times that the Basque people work really hard, they don't like being retired, they do things really well, and you can kind of see that in their economy, their cuisine, even their sports. Heck, they don't have one but two amazing football teams in Spain.
Athletic Bilbao and Real Sociedad from San Sebastian, with the latter currently playing in the Champions League this season.
Some notable people from the region include
Xabi Alonso, Mikel Arteta, Ander Herrera, Juan Sebastian Elcano, Unai Emery.
Sorry to bring football to the conversation again, but they have 3 world-class football coaches at the moment. That's insane.
Next, Cantabria, capital Santander, population less than 600,000.
Okay, let me say this, that the neighbors of the Cantabria, most notably the Basque Country and Asturias, really make fun of Cantabria. Like they say, there's nothing happening in Cantabria, there's no one in Cantabria. Cantabria is so small, no one cares about it. But did you know this?
There are over 650,000 caves in Cantabria, the most notable ones being Altamira and Soplao. It has more than 90 beaches. You can literally go on a different beach every day of the entire summer. They have a building designed by Gaudi. They have this enormous zoo called Cabarceno, where animals live in semi-freedom. It's like 8 square kilometers, which is not that much, but compared to other zoos, is so much better for everyone. They have ferry connections with England and France. And just look at these amazing valleys they have as well, La Pisueña, La Paz, and La Miera. I bet you did not expect to see places like this in Spain, right? Oh, and one thing that's pretty obvious, but I still need to mention, you know this bank, well, it's one of the biggest banks in the world and it's named after the capital city of Cantabria, Santander. And it's of course headquartered here.
Oh yeah, and the autonomous community is named after the Celtic tribe Cantabri who lived here. And I think this is a good place to stop.
We will continue with Castilla and León, Castilla-La Mancha, Catalonia, Extremadura, Galicia, La Rioja, Madrid, Murcia, Navarra, and Valencia in the next video.
I think this is the best for everyone. You get to experience Spain twice and I don't get to bore you for 1 hour. Y nos vemos en el próximo video. Hasta luego, chicos. Oh yeah, and please like, subscribe.